Before all the success I now have, I went through the greatest tragedy of my life. I am Mr. Jonathan Reeves. Over 2 decades ago, I lost a daughter, a baby girl, along with my late wife, after a car accident. Amid the confusion, our daughter was never found. I searched for her for so many years, but I failed. At that moment I, Mr. Reeves, pulled out an old photo from a dusty album, a picture of a smiling baby girl. I handed it to Mr. Ernest Smith and his wife. This was the last photo taken of my daughter before she disappeared. Until now, I still hope that she's alive, and that I'll find her someday. When Ernest's wife saw the photo, her face turned pale, and her voice seemed to vanish. Her hands trembled as she held the picture. "Ernie," she whispered to her husband, nearly breathless. This is the baby we found on the side of the road more than 20 years ago." Rain, their daughter, turned to her parents. "Mum, Dad, what are you saying?" "Hey there, this is your bestie, Mr. Hope, here again with a life-changing story." Inside the grand estate of Jonathan V. Reeves, a wealthy American businessman nearly in retirement, a small meeting was taking place. Despite being confined to a wheelchair and moving with difficulty, Jonathan remained calm and cheerful. He had entrusted the management of his household and some parts of his business to a team of loyal staff, many of whom had worked for him for over 20 years. Mr. Reeves owned well-known factories and hotels. His name had become synonymous with success ever since his youth. In fact, at just 28, he was once the youngest self-made millionaire in the country. Now, at 83, he was still one of the richest and most influential men in America. Jonathan had never remarried after the tragic death of his wife when he was 30. He had promised to love only one woman. In the decades that followed, he focused solely on building his company. Despite his wealth, Jonathan remained humble, which was why his employees remained loyal. Not only were they well compensated, but Mr. Reeves also made sure they faced no trouble in their work. If a problem arose, he would quickly address it. Every single member of his staff was carefully selected, skilled, honest, and trustworthy. Jonathan wanted people around him whom he could rely on without question. One of those people was Lenny, his longest-serving staff member, and now his right-hand man in the business. Lenny was known for his sharp business acumen and unshakable integrity. For instance, whenever large sums of money were left in the office, Lenny would make sure they were returned to Mr. Reeves without a cent missing. Another trusted aide was Mary, who had been in service since Jonathan's wife, Dorothy, was alive. Mary became Dorothy's personal assistant and, eventually, an indispensable member of the household. Over the years, she had witnessed both the joyous and tragic moments of the Reeves family, including the massive parties in the mansion and the horrific accident that led to the loss of Jonathan's only child. Now, Mary was the chief housekeeper, but to Mr. Reeves, she was more like a sister. She ran the household like it was her own, and beyond her, Mr. Reeves had many other staff in both his mansion and business. He believed most of them were loyal and decent, but he also wasn't sure if everyone was truly sincere or simply pretending. One day, after the staff had completed their duties, Mr. Reeves gathered everyone in the living room. He wanted to test their sincerity and loyalty. "Mary," he said gently, "please bring the cash box from the study. Here's the key." Mary accepted the key and left to get what he asked. "You, Lenny, please check the documents on my desk in the office," he continued. "I want to ensure all the important paperwork is still there." Both followed his instructions. Moments later, Mary returned with the cash box. Mr. Reeves instructed her to open it in front of everyone. Inside was not just a large sum of money, but also gold bars. Mary's eyes didn't flinch. Her grip remained steady, showing no trace of temptation. "All this money," said Mr. Reeves, "I want you to deposit it into the bank for me. I can't leave the house anymore, so I'm entrusting it to you." Mary hesitated. "Sir, this is an enormous amount. What if something bad happens?" "I trust you, Mary," he replied, "and besides, Arnold will accompany you." Arnold was the driver, once a 20-year-old rookie, now nearing 40. He smiled and assured Mary he knew the safest routes around the area. "Thank you, Arnold," said Mary with a small smile. "I'll also have Rod, my bodyguard, accompany you," added Mr. Reeves. Rod had been working for him for years and had even been sponsored through school by Mr. Reeves. Though Rod had a degree now, he chose to remain in service out of gratitude. Mr. Reeves trusted Rod with his safety, but this task wasn't just about money, it was a loyalty test. If they returned the cash and gold untouched, they would be rewarded with something even greater. That's exactly what Lenny did with the documents from the desk. He organized them meticulously, counted each file, and reviewed every important paper before handing them back to Mr. Reeves. "You're incredibly diligent," Jonathan commented with a visible smile. He was genuinely pleased. Mary had deposited the full amount in the bank, including the gold bars. She could have easily run off with the money, but the receipt from the bank proved everything was intact, every cent accounted for. "You know, I'm always thankful to have all of you around me," said Mr. Reeves. "I don't know what I would do without you." "We should be the ones thanking you, sir," Mary replied. "If it weren't for your kindness, we might still be stuck in poverty." "She's right, sir," Lenny agreed. "Thanks to you, my children were able to finish school. I don't know where we'd be without you." Mr. Reeves was deeply moved by their loyalty. Every time he saw genuine honesty and dedication in the people serving him, his trust in them grew stronger. But he wasn't done testing them yet. He had plans to distribute shares of his company before retiring, but only to those truly deserving. He needed to be sure. Only the worthy would receive such rewards. So, Mr. Reeves began to implement his next plan. One quiet morning, panic spread throughout the mansion when Mr. Reeves screamed for help. Clutching his chest and pressing one hand to his head, he appeared to be struggling to breathe. All the employees rushed to his aid. "Mr. Reeves, what's going on?" Mary asked in concern. "I need a doctor. I'm having chest pains and headaches," he whispered, wiping sweat from his brow. One of the staff quickly called for an ambulance. In just a few minutes, Mr. Reeves was rushed to the nearest hospital. Back at the mansion, the staff murmured among themselves, wondering what had just happened. Hours later, Mr. Reeves returned, this time accompanied by 2 nurses. He wore dark sunglasses and carried a cane. Quietly, he entered the main hall and summoned everyone. "Apologies for disturbing your work," he began. "I know you're all busy, but I want you to know, unfortunately, I've lost my vision." The doctor told him that his sudden blindness was caused by a spike in blood pressure. But in truth, it wasn't real. Mr. Reeves had made an arrangement with the doctor as part of his plan. He was only pretending to be blind. He wanted everything to look convincing. "We're so sorry to hear that, sir," Mary said sadly. "I hope your sight can still return," added Lenny. "I don't know if there's any chance. The doctors said they'll continue to observe my condition. Maybe it's just part of aging," Mr. Reeves said in a heavy tone. "Don't worry, sir. We're here for you," Rod assured him. "Thank you all," Jonathan smiled faintly. "But I want the business to continue, just like before. Even now that I'm blind, I hope I can still count on all of you. I need trustworthy people around me more than ever." "Don't worry, Mr. Reeves. We'll do our best," Lenny promised. Jonathan smiled again. "Thank you." The next day, Mr. Reeves once again called his staff together and began delegating larger responsibilities to each of them, using his supposed blindness as justification. What they didn't know was that hidden cameras had been installed all over the mansion, and Jonathan was watching everything. Through a discreet earpiece, he could also hear every word being said. Those cameras had been there for years, but he had never turned them on before. He had always been too focused on the business. But now that retirement was approaching, he finally decided to use them. It was time to test his people. "Mary, Lenny, you never run out of kindness for me," Mr. Reeves said one afternoon after they brought him his lunch. "Don't worry about it, sir," Mary replied. "We just want the best for you." Thankfully, in the days that followed, their treatment of him remained respectful and attentive. He almost wanted to tell them it was all a test, but he decided it was still too soon to reveal the truth. "Sir, are you trying to work again?" Lenny asked, noticing the phone near Mr. Reeves. "Oh, just taking some calls from headquarters. They still need my help now and then." "You really shouldn't be doing that, sir. Let me handle everything," Lenny said with concern. "You might end up with another headache, or your blood pressure could rise again." Jonathan chuckled and patted Lenny on the shoulder. "You're very kind, but sometimes I just want to feel useful too. I don't want to be a burden." "You're never a burden, sir," Lenny said quickly. "That's right, sir," Mary added. "Don't even think like that. You're the reason we're happy to serve here every day." Jonathan smiled. "Thank you." But unknown to Mr. Reeves, there was still a hidden truth he had yet to uncover. Not everyone showing him kindness could be trusted. Not everyone he had faith in was worthy of it. Some of them were simply wearing masks of loyalty, waiting for the right moment to execute their selfish plans. Despite his wisdom and influence, there were things Jonathan hadn't seen, secrets that quietly lingered in the corners of his world. People close to him might not be who they seemed. Their trustworthiness might be an act. Now it was in Mr. Reeves's hands to find out who was genuine and who was the traitor. After Mr. Reeves revealed that he was blind and had trouble hearing, some of his employees at the Reeves estate began to act differently, something he hadn't anticipated. They assumed that the way they had treated him before was sincere, but it turned out that for some, it had only been an act. The humility and respect that some helpers used to show were replaced by arrogance and overconfidence. They subtly revealed their true intentions. While Mr. Reeves sat quietly in the living room, pretending to be listening to Lenny's reports, behind his dark sunglasses, his sharp eyes watched everything. He saw it all, but remained silent, choosing to observe further. Even when he was in his room, he could hear their conversations through the microphones hidden throughout the estate. They didn't know that the entire Reeves estate had been rigged with hidden cameras and microphones, providing Mr. Reeves with a clear picture of what was happening around him. "Mr. Reeves, here are the papers you asked me to bring," one of the staff members said, handing over a folder. "Thank you, just leave it in my office. Lenny will explain the contents to me. I can't read them anymore," Jonathan replied, pretending to feel his way with his cane. "Yes, sir," said the employee, briefly bowing before starting to walk away. "Wait," Mr. Reeves said, halting the man. "Just put the papers on my desk and leave right away. I have another task for Lenny in the office." Mr. Reeves's tone was gentle. "Yes, sir," the employee replied. As he exited the room, he smirked and shook his head. In the hallway, the cameras caught him whispering to another staff member. "The old man can't see anymore, but he still acts like he's in charge. Even if I tamper with something in his office, he won't notice. He's blind, after all. So annoying how he still acts like the boss just because he's rich and pays well. If I were in charge, I wouldn't be anything like him." "Keep your voice down, Romero." "Someone might hear you," said the other. Yeah, but seriously, he acts like he owns us just because he's the boss. He doesn't even matter anymore. He's blind and about to die soon anyway. When is that old man going to die already? I feel like it's coming soon. Who knows? Maybe he'll pass in his sleep tonight and never wake up. Mr. Reeves, hearing all this through his earpiece, was disheartened. He couldn't believe they could wish something like that on him. Did they not realize that if he died, they would all lose their jobs, and the company might go bankrupt? The following days were filled with whispers of resentment from nearly every part of the estate. His staff, who he had treated well and paid generously, were now speaking ill of him behind his back. He had thought they harbored no resentment. He had always tried to be a good boss, but perhaps it had not been enough. From his room, Mr. Reeves listened to every word. It shocked him that people he trusted so deeply could harbor such bitterness. Luckily, he heard nothing bad from Lenny, Mary, Arnold, Rod, or the cook, Anna, because if he had, he would have truly questioned whether he had ever been a good employer at all. He took a deep breath. Now he knew, not all who acted kind to him were genuinely kind. Some were pretending. Now he understood that not everyone he planned to reward was deserving. He needed to continue his plan carefully to discover exactly who among them truly deserved a share of his legacy. Despite his age and fortune, Mr. Reeves constantly thought about who he would leave everything to. He had no close relatives left. His wife and daughter had perished in the accident decades ago. They had been driving home from a party when a large truck crashed into their vehicle. Both he and his wife lost consciousness. When Mr. Reeves awoke in the hospital, he was told that his wife had survived, but their baby daughter had gone missing. Amid the rain and chaos, no one saw where the child had gone. They never found her again. They did everything they could to search, but to no avail. Now that Mr. Reeves was growing old, relatives who had ignored him for decades suddenly began to reappear. They came with warm smiles and sweet words, pretending to care, but he knew their true intentions. When he needed them most, when he lost his child, and again when his wife passed away, they were nowhere to be found. Now, because they believed he had no one to inherit his estate, they began to show up like mushrooms after rain. "Don't worry about anything, Uncle," they would say. "You can move in with us. We'll take good care of you." But Jonathan knew the truth. He wasn't foolish. They weren't there for him out of love. They were after his wealth. He hadn't heard from them in years, and now they crowded around him, thinking they'd be included in his will. But leaving his wealth to any of them was never part of Mr. Reeves's plan. He had no intention of passing it to any of his so-called relatives. Instead, he wanted to leave it to his long-time employees, the ones he had come to see as family. But he had to be sure first. Were they truly loyal, or were they just like his opportunistic relatives? To find out, he launched a new test. Mr. Reeves pretended he was facing financial problems to see how his loyal employees would react. He also told them he planned to retire from the company next year and stay at home more often. He acted as if he had no more interest or ability to be involved in business. At the same time, he remained quiet and continued pretending that he couldn't see or hear anything happening around him. One day, while sitting in his room with his earpiece on, Mr. Reeves watched through his laptop as his trusted employees gathered in the main hall. He listened carefully to their conversation, things he never thought he'd hear in his own home. He listened to Lenny, Mary, Arnold, Rod, and even the cook, Anna, who had only started working for him last year. From their behavior, he sensed that something was being planned. "Looks like Mr. Reeves is running out of money," said Rod. "I'm sure the company will bounce back," Lenny replied. "He's rich and well-connected. No way he goes bankrupt." "I know exactly how rich he is," Lenny continued. "I'm the most trusted among us. I know everything, even his total assets. No way we're not getting something out of this once he's gone. Are you sure we'll get something? Anna asked, because I'm getting tired of waiting. Definitely. Once that old man dies, we'll get loads of cash, Lenny said, chuckling. He's never had a problem with money. Don't worry, we won't be left empty-handed when he's gone. Mr. Reeves nearly froze in place. He never imagined he'd hear something like that from Lenny, his most trusted man, the one who knew all his secrets. When do we get his wealth? I'm tired of waiting. I want to roll in gold. I want to buy everything I want. I'm sick of being a servant, Rod added. Just a bit more patience, Mary replied. You've seen how often Mr. Reeves gets sick these days. Even I'm getting impatient, Anna said. I don't want to grow old cooking in his mansion. Why is he still alive? He should have been dead long ago. He's useless now. Just hand over the wealth and end this. You're right, Arnold chimed in, and that's why we brought our whole families here, to make sure everything he owns ends up with us. That's the best part, said Mary confidently. Almost every member of our family is already inside the Reeves estate. Just a little more manipulation, and Jonathan Reeves will definitely leave everything to us. A cold wind blew as Mr. Reeves listened. The hairs on his arm stood up from everything he had just heard. He sat frozen, unable to believe that the very people he had trusted for so many years were plotting against him. He had treated Mary and her husband, Carl, almost like siblings. He had even pitied them when they said they couldn't have children due to Carl's condition. Mr. Reeves had allowed Carl to work as a gardener in the mansion, hoping the couple could save enough for old age. He provided them all employment benefits and treated them kindly. But now he had learned the truth. They had a child, after all. Somehow they'd managed to hide this from him. That child was Anna. The rest of their relatives were also working inside the Reeves estate. They had succeeded in executing their plan, possibly because Mr. Reeves had been too preoccupied with his company after losing his wife. All his time had gone into work, leaving him blind to the people around him. But now, knowing what he did, he couldn't trust any of them, not with his wealth, not with anything. Instead of confronting them, he began planning more carefully, more tactically, to ensure they wouldn't get away with stealing his legacy. Before he could contact his lawyer, Attorney Jackson Marquez, Lenny came in and asked him not to overwork himself. Lenny even took his phone, pretending to worry about Mr. Reeves's health. It became clear to Jonathan that they were trying to limit his movements, to carry out their plan uninterrupted. Mr. Reeves complied, not because he trusted them anymore, but because he knew they might have more allies in the house. One wrong move, and his life could be in danger. He had to be cautious. Unfortunately, after that night, Mr. Reeves couldn't find another opportunity to speak with his lawyer. Lenny and the others were always watching him. Even when he asked to be left alone in his room, one of them would always stay behind to monitor him. They believed he was blind and clueless. Mr. Reeves stayed quiet. To them, it looked like his silence came from his blindness and the supposed downfall of his company. They didn't suspect that he was already crafting ways to protect himself and everything he had built. I think Mr. Reeves won't last much longer, said Lenny with a grin to his relatives. What makes you say that, Uncle? Anna asked. Don't you notice? He's losing himself more and more. He's weaker now. Have you been putting something in his food, Anna? Arnold asked suddenly. No, but actually I've stopped including his medications and vitamins in his meals to make him weaker. Do you think that's really what's causing it? Yes, I do. He needs those to stay healthy. Then I made the right choice not to prepare or serve them anymore, Anna said smugly. Still, be careful. He might get suspicious, warned Rod. What can he even do? He's blind and can barely hear, Anna replied, laughing harshly. In the following weeks, Mr. Reeves quietly continued observing. He watched as the people around him changed. Every time they thought he wasn't listening or watching, their true colors emerged. The estate had become a trap, a place filled with people he once considered family, but who now only fed his growing doubt. Some of the other helpers overheard Lenny and Mary's conversations in the living room, but no one dared to report them to Mr. Reeves. Everyone was afraid, and some secretly hoped they'd receive part of the inheritance once he was gone. "When Mr. Reeves dies, nothing will stand in the way of our plans," Mary muttered in a harsh tone. During those same weeks, Mr. Reeves continued to overhear discussions on how the household staff would seize control of the business and the estate. He even heard them planning how they would forge documents. "Once we get Mr. Reeves to sign everything over, he won't even notice," Mary said. "Lenny will take care of all the paperwork. He trusts Lenny so much. Now that he's blind, he won't read anything, and he won't realize his wealth is gone. He'll die soon anyway." "What if he doesn't sign?" asked Anna. "He's as stubborn as a child sometimes." "I told you we should just poison him," Anna added. "He completely trusts me and eats everything I give him." "Oops, break time," she joked. "Want to be featured in our next upload? Don't forget to leave your lesson learned in the comments. Thanks so much for listening, and shout out to Cherry Torrado from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. "We can't rush things, Anna," Arnold said seriously. "Mr. Reeves is too rich. If anything happens to him, people will investigate." "And who do you think they'll blame? Us. We're the ones living with him." "Arnold's right," Rod agreed. "We can't make reckless moves. We should wait and see if Mr. Reeves voluntarily leaves us some part of the company or his estate. If not, we forge the documents and get him to sign." "Our plans can't fall apart now," Mary said gravely. "We've been preparing too long. We need to act carefully." "But what if he doesn't leave us anything?" Anna asked angrily. "What if he refuses to sign the fake contracts?" "We can't just accept that we'll get nothing. You know how greedy I am." "If he doesn't agree," Lenny told Carl seriously, "we can't wait forever. He's old, but we need his wealth now." One day, when they tried to get him to sign the forged documents, Mr. Reeves pretended to feel unwell. They couldn't force him to sign anything, and since they were always monitoring him, it was becoming harder for Jonathan to keep track of their plans, or find a way to call his lawyer. Then one day, Ernest, Mr. Reeves's longtime barber, arrived. He had been cutting Jonathan's hair monthly for years, but never mingled with the other staff, maybe because he didn't live at the estate. Mr. Reeves didn't know whether to trust Ernest, but he figured it was better to try than to let the traitor succeed. He told Ernest he didn't want to be trimmed in the mansion anymore. "I want a change of scenery," he said. "I need fresh air. I'm tired of being cooped up here. Do you still have your small barber shop, Ernest? Can you take me there?" "Are you sure, sir?" Ernest asked, surprised. It was the first time Mr. Reeves had made such a request. "Yes. Maybe fresh air will help me relax. Maybe even bring back my sight." Jonathan subtly glanced at Mary, who didn't seem to like the idea. Before Ernest could answer, Mary interrupted. "But sir, it's dangerous for you to leave. Please stay here in the mansion." "I need fresh air, Mary," Jonathan said firmly. "You know I've always hated being stuck here. Everything in this place reminds me of my late wife and missing daughter. Let me go with Ernest. I've known him for a long time. I'll be fine." Jonathan had planned everything in advance. Earlier, he asked Arnold to have one of the old cars repaired. When Ernest arrived, Jonathan ensured that Ernest would be the one to drive him, someone the schemers wouldn't suspect. "But sir," Mary protested, "why not let Arnold drive?" "He's out right now," Jonathan replied. "I sent him to get the old Mercedes fixed." "I can call him back. No need to bother him. Besides, Ernest said the mayor's driver is with him, right?" "Yes, sir," Ernest confirmed. "His name's Jeff. He's a good driver and a good kid. He usually gets his hair cut at my shop, and since it's his day off, he's with me now. I'm sure he wouldn't mind driving you." While Ernest explained, Mary gave him a sharp look, which only deepened his suspicion that something was indeed wrong inside the estate. Unable to protest further, Mary reluctantly allowed Mr. Reeves to leave with Ernest and Jeff, who took the wheel of the luxury car. But as soon as they drove off, Mary made a phone call, informing someone of Mr. Reeves's departure, and expressing her concern that he was starting to behave unusually. Meanwhile, as Jeff drove toward the barber shop, Mr. Reeves sat silently in the back seat. After a few minutes, he finally spoke. "Jeff, you must be wondering why I'm acting this way today." Jeff glanced at him cautiously. "Not really, Mr. Reeves, but yes, I've noticed you're quieter than usual." Jonathan chuckled faintly. "There's a reason, and I think it's time you both knew." He removed his dark sunglasses and looked Jeff in the eyes. "I'm not blind." Jeffrey was visibly shocked, as was Ernest. "What?" Ernest exclaimed. "But how?" "It was all an act," Mr. Reeves said calmly. "I did it to test the people around me. I needed to know who was truly loyal, and who was only here for my money." The two men listened silently as Mr. Reeves continued. "Over the past few weeks, I've seen who's pretending, and who genuinely cares. I've seen the real character of most of the people in the mansion." "What do you mean, sir?" Ernest asked, still processing everything. "All of them, almost every one of them, are plotting against me," Mr. Reeves replied. "They want to take everything I've worked for. If they can't do it through trickery, they'll kill me." Ernest fell quiet, as if lost in thought. "That explains why Mary gave me that look earlier when I agreed to take you to my barber shop," Ernest muttered. "She looked at me like I had done something wrong. It must be because she's hiding something." "Exactly," said Mr. Reeves. "That's why I needed to get out of the house. They're watching me like hawks, thinking I'm blind and unaware of everything. But I see it all. I hear it all. I just haven't been able to call my lawyer or tell anyone, until now." "It's a good thing you managed to get out, sir," Jeffrey added. "We can ask the authorities for help. I noticed earlier that some of your guards seemed armed, and they were giving me strange looks." "They're all in on it," Mr. Reeves said. "I don't know who to trust anymore. They all want my estate." "You were right to be suspicious of their behavior," Ernest said. "I noticed something wasn't right too, but I didn't want to say anything in case I was wrong." "Well, now we know for sure," said Mr. Reeves. "They've been planning this for a long time. After everything I've done for them, I thought they'd be loyal." Jeffrey handed over his phone. "Here, sir. Use mine." "Thank you, son. I need to call my lawyer. This has gone far enough. They need to be arrested before it's too late." Jonathan used the phone to call Attorney Velasquez. Fortunately, he remembered the number by heart, and even though it was an unknown number, the lawyer picked up. "Mr. Reeves?" the lawyer said, surprised. "Is something wrong? Why are you calling from another number?" "I need your help, attorney. Something's happening in my house. The staff have plotted something terrible. I need you to alert the police immediately. I'm only calling now because I finally managed to leave the mansion." "I understand, Mr. Reeves. I'll contact the police right away," the lawyer said, voice full of urgency. While still on the phone with the lawyer, the car suddenly came to a halt. Jeffrey looked ahead and saw a van blocking their path. Before they could react, the van doors opened and 3 armed men stepped out, former staff members of Mr. Reeves, people well known around the mansion. "Stop right there! Don't move!" one of them shouted, aiming his gun. "What's the meaning of this?" Mr. Reeves asked sternly, trying to stay composed despite the danger. The leader of the group, Carl, Mary's husband, approached. "Sorry, Mr. Reeves," he said coldly, "but we won't let all those years of working in the mansion go to waste." "Traitor!" Ernest shouted, but Arnold immediately pointed a gun at him. "Quiet, old man. Don't make this worse," Arnold warned. Mr. Reeves, Geoffrey, and Ernest were forced out of the car and into the van. "We're going back to the mansion," Carl said, "and this time no one will interfere with our plans." As they drove back, Geoffrey and Ernest exchanged looks. They were clearly trying to come up with a plan. Mr. Reeves sat in silence, his eyes blazing with fury. "You've made a terrible mistake, Carl," he said. "You don't know what I'm capable of." "Oh, we know exactly what you can do," Carl sneered. "But we don't care. Before the police arrive, we'll already have everything we need from you. If we have to take you hostage to get your wealth, so be it. We've endured enough under your roof." Mr. Reeves could barely believe what he was hearing from people he had once trusted. "I never imagined you could do this to me," he said, with deep pain. "We never imagined you'd be so clever," Rodolfo added mockingly. "Pretending to be blind? That was smart, but not smart enough." When they reached the mansion, the three were brought into the main hall. They didn't fight back. After all, the assailants were armed. One wrong move could mean death. Mr. Reeves sat on the couch, tightly guarded. Ernest and Geoffrey were on the floor, dragged along for simply being with him. Around them stood the same people Mr. Reeves had trusted, now brandishing weapons, their faces filled with greed and betrayal. In the thick silence, the pain and disappointment in Mr. Reeves's eyes were unmistakable. You were like family to me," he finally said. "This is how you repay me? After all I did for you?" He turned to Carl. "How many times did I pull you out of poverty? Mary, I gave you shelter, jobs, the chance to start over. Rodolfo, who helped you when your family was falling apart? Who paid for your education?" As he spoke, some of the staff looked away in shame, unable to meet his eyes. But Carl simply laughed, a cold, heartless laugh. "Thank you for everything," Carl said with a sneer. "But you made a mistake, trusting the wrong people." "You were too kind, Mr. Reeves," he added. "You never saw the wolves around you. You're filthy rich while we keep working like slaves. It's time we took what we deserve." "I worked for you for years," Rodolfo chimed in. "I'm done being a servant. Now it's our turn to enjoy the riches." Jonathan Reeves let out a deep sigh. "My wealth was never built on greed or cruelty. I worked hard for it, and I shared it with those I thought deserved it." "But you stole more than my wealth. You stole my trust." Still, Carl showed no remorse. "We don't care about trust or respect. We want your fortune. Everything you have belongs to us now." His voice grew louder and more intense. "And if you don't give us what we want, you'll never leave this house alive." Jonathan remained firm, despite the threat. "You'll never understand the true value of wealth," he replied. "It's not money or property, it's trust, respect, and dignity, but you're blinded by greed. Remember this, evil never wins." Silence fell again, heavier than before. But Carl and the others just laughed, mocking Jonathan's convictions. As silence circled the room, Mr. Reeves let out a heavy sigh. He looked straight at Lenny, his former right hand, and then at the rest of the staff, now surrounding him like predators. "What a waste," he said slowly, bitterness in every word. "I was planning to leave the company to all of you, especially you, Lenny. You were my most trusted. Of everyone who worked for me, I considered you the closest. I have no family to leave my legacy to," Mr. Reeves continued. "And I thought, who better to inherit everything than the people who helped me build it? But look what you've done." Lenny and Carl exchanged glances. Some staff hesitated, but the greed in their eyes was still there, overpowering any flicker of guilt. "But instead," Mr. Reeves said, his voice rising, "you betrayed me. You stole not only my trust, but also my respect. I saved you from poverty, gave you a chance to start again, and treated you like family. And this is how you repay me?" The air in the room grew heavy. Lenny, standing beside Carl, furrowed his brow. There was a flicker of regret on his face, but it didn't last long. "What a pity, Mr. Reeves," Carl replied coldly. "If only you'd done that sooner, we wouldn't be in this situation." "But honestly, you were never really family to us. You were the boss, we were the servants. Now it's time we flip that around." Mr. Reeves stared him down calmly. "You weren't my servants. You saw yourselves that way. I never treated you as lesser. You put yourselves in that position because of your greed." "Enough!" Carl shouted. "We're done talking. We don't want promises. We don't want your words. We want your wealth, all of it, and we're going to get it, no matter what." Carl laughed menacingly. Lenny remained silent, unable to look Mr. Reeves in the eye. Despite his calm expression, Jonathan felt a deep ache. He had trusted Lenny completely. "Your greed will destroy you," Mr. Reeves warned. "Wealth gained through wickedness never lasts." But Carl no longer listened. He turned away and ordered the others to keep a close watch on Mr. Reeves while they planned their next move. "Do you really think this will work?" Mr. Reeves asked Lenny, who still said nothing. "We don't care what you think," Rodolfo snapped. "All that matters is we get what we want." As the accusations flew, Jeffrey slowly moved beside Ernest. He was waiting, watching, for the perfect moment to execute their plan. "You can't stop this," Rodolfo growled, pointing a gun at Mr. Reeves. "To make things quicker, we're going to finish this right now." Then suddenly, Jeffrey sprang into action. He lunged at one of the guards and knocked the gun from his hands, quickly tossing it to Ernest. Despite his age, Ernest moved fast, pointing the weapon at another attacker. Chaos erupted inside the mansion. Carl, who had been in the kitchen, ran out and began shooting at Jeffrey, but the young man dodged and punched another accomplice. Ernest, gaining confidence, shoved a heavy table into another staff member. "You won't succeed with your evil plans," Jeffrey shouted as he fought. Mr. Reeves, though unarmed, used his cane to strike Carl's knee, knocking him to the ground. Carl cursed loudly. Mary and her daughter Anna tried to rush in to help Carl, but it was too late. In the heat of the scuffle, the police arrived, responding to Attorney Velasquez's call. They surrounded the mansion, some bursting through the doors to take control. "Nobody move! Hands up!" the officers shouted, guns aimed at the staff involved in the conspiracy. "What do we do, Dad?" Anna asked Carl, tears in her eyes. "There are so many of them. We're done." "I thought our lives would change once we got Mr. Reeves's fortune, but now it looks like I'm going to grow old behind bars," she cried. They had no more options. The police arrested the staff who had plotted against Mr. Reeves, including the driver and everyone else involved. "I trusted you, Mary," Mr. Reeves said, his voice filled with disappointment as she stood handcuffed, struggling not to cry. "I never thought you were capable of this." "You know," he continued, "this was all just a test. I only wanted to see if you were worthy to inherit my company after I'm gone. I was planning to give something to all of you. But you couldn't wait. You destroyed my trust, and you've ruined your own lives, all because of your greed. Now you'll suffer the consequences in prison. I'll make sure you never get out. You'll rot in there." After everything that happened, Mr. Reeves realized he could no longer easily trust people who merely appeared kind. Years of generosity and care couldn't uncover someone's real intentions. But sometimes, one step, one quiet test, was enough to expose the truth. What surprised him the most was that the two people he least expected, people he barely knew, turned out to be the ones who truly cared. Ernest, the old barber, and Jeffrey, a young man who didn't even work for him. He saw how the two of them risked their lives to protect him. Despite their bruises and wounds, they never stopped fighting until they knew he was safe. As Mr. Reeves stood there after everything, he looked at them, tears streaming down his face. "To all the people I trusted," he whispered, "I never thought it would be you two, complete strangers, who would prove to be true. I owe you both my life." Ernest smiled, his face tired but full of kindness. "Sir, you've shown us kindness long before today. You've always been good to me. We couldn't let anything bad happen to you. You're not just our boss, you're our friend." "I don't even know how I can repay your kindness," Jeffrey added, his face also tired but smiling. "You don't need to," said Mr. Reeves. "You did what was right. That's all that matters. You didn't have to know me well. What mattered was that you helped when I needed it." "You're right," Ernest added. "And what's the point of a job if we can't protect the man who gave us a livelihood? You don't need to repay us. We're just glad you're safe." Though deeply moved, Mr. Reeves knew a simple thank you was not enough. His mind lit up with a decision he had been contemplating for a long time. Days passed, and everything started to return to normal. Thanks to the surveillance recordings installed throughout the mansion, it became much easier to press charges against the former staff Mr. Reeves once trusted. The video evidence spoke for itself. Some of them even tried to beg for forgiveness, but for Mr. Reeves, the time he had given them to prove their loyalty had been more than enough. He was done giving chances. He would never trust them again. One quiet afternoon, Rain Santos arrived at their modest home in the countryside with her husband, Jude. Rain had just returned from working in Germany. She had spent more than 2 years abroad, working non-stop to pay off her family's debts. Finally, she was back to be with the parents she dearly missed. She had waited so long for this vacation. She missed everything, the place where she grew up, and most of all, her parents. As soon as she stepped into their humble home, she was welcomed with wide smiles and tight hugs from her father, Ernest, and her mother. "Daughter, you're finally here," Ernest said, tears forming in his eyes as he embraced her tightly. His hands were rough, worn from his work as a barber, but to Rain they carried warmth and love. Soon, her mother rushed out from the house. "Rain, you've lost weight. Were you eating well over there?" she asked, her face filled with concern, though her eyes sparkled with joy. She kissed and hugged Rain tightly, like she never wanted to let her go. In that moment, all the fatigue Rain carried from working abroad seemed to vanish. That kiss and hug from her parents erased all the loneliness she had endured while away. "I missed you both so much," Rain said, wiping her tears. "I waited so long for this day." "We missed you too, sweetheart," her mother replied. "The house was so quiet without you, but we knew all your sacrifices were for our family." "Your dad and I cooked your favorite dishes. Come in, let's eat," she added. The three of them walked back into the house. Despite its simplicity, it was filled with warmth, love, and happiness. It was the same home where Rain grew up. Every corner carried a joyful memory. At the dining table, her mom served her favorites: chicken adobo, sinigang, and rice cakes cooked in coconut milk. While eating, Rain began talking about her plans. "I want to save more so I can give you both a more comfortable life," she said. "Dad, you shouldn't be working anymore. You should be resting." Ernest smiled. "What matters is that you're here. Your mom and I are doing just fine. Wealth and dreams will come in time. But the moments we spend together, we can't get those back." The next day, Rain heard something from their neighbors. They spoke of how her father had saved a rich old man's life, along with a young man named Jeffrey. Rain couldn't help but feel incredibly proud. She told her father how proud she was of him, and while they were in the middle of their conversation, a luxury car stopped in front of their house. A well-dressed man stepped out, carrying 2 envelopes. "Good afternoon," he greeted politely. I'm Attorney Vasquez, Mr. Jonathan Reeves's lawyer. I'm here to personally deliver an invitation from him." He handed the envelope to Ernest. Rain and her parents exchanged glances. Ernest opened the envelope and read the contents. It was an invitation from Mr. Reeves, asking them to visit the mansion for a special dinner as a gesture of gratitude. "This wasn't necessary," Ernest said humbly. But the lawyer smiled. "Mr. Reeves insists. He specifically asked to express his deepest thanks." "In that case, you can expect us," Ernest replied. As he and the lawyer locked eyes, Rain noticed a strange warmth in her cheeks. The lawyer smiled at her and nodded. The next day, a car from the Reeves estate came to pick them up. As they approached the grand gate engraved with Reeves Manor, Rain couldn't believe her eyes. Tall trees surrounded the perfectly manicured gardens, and right in front of them stood a mansion so enormous it looked like something out of a movie. "This place is incredible," Rain whispered to herself. "Like royalty lives here." Even though Ernest had been Mr. Reeves's barber for many years, it was his first time visiting the mansion. They were greeted by the new staff, all of whom bowed respectfully and escorted them to the kitchen, where Mr. Reeves was waiting, visibly delighted to see them. Geoffrey and his parents were also there, and smiled warmly upon seeing Rain. Ernest introduced Rain to Mr. Reeves, but Rain couldn't explain what she felt when she saw him. It was as though a deep, unexplainable connection pulled her toward him. She chose to ignore the strange feeling and simply focused on enjoying the moment with her parents. Rain smiled as she watched her father sit there, a bit uneasy with the attention. She couldn't believe that her simple father, who used to walk to work under the scorching sun, was now being honored in a place this grand. "Dad, they really respect you here," she whispered. "I had no idea you made this kind of sacrifice for others. I'm so proud that you're my father." Ernest smiled back. "I didn't do it for recognition. I just did what was right." "You're amazing, Dad. You're like a hero," she said playfully. "Oh, you," her mom said with a chuckle. "He is a hero, though." As the celebration continued, Rain couldn't help but be amazed by every part of Mr. Reeves's home. The massive chandelier, the smooth marble floors, and the antique decorations all reflected wealth and legacy. In the middle of dinner, Mr. Reeves stood and addressed the group. "Ernest, Geoffrey," he began, "I want to thank you both for your kindness and courage. If not for you, I might not be alive today. What you did for me was not just an act of goodness, it was something I'll never forget." Ernest bowed slightly, a little shy from the praise, though he smiled. "Mr. Reeves, it was nothing," he said. "We just did what was right. Anyone in our position would have done the same." Mr. Reeves shook his head. "No, Ernest, not everyone would have done what you did. In the face of danger, you showed true loyalty and bravery. That's rare nowadays." He turned to Geoffrey. "Your bravery and intelligence saved me." "Thank you." Geoffrey smiled. "It was an honor, Mr. Reeves. We did it because we believed you were worth saving." Their conversation turned to future plans. Mr. Reeves announced his intention to reward Ernest and Geoffrey. He handed them a small box. When they opened it, inside were gold watches. Both of them hesitated to accept, knowing the value. But Mr. Reeves insisted. Everyone applauded, including the new staff, who also showed their respect to Ernest and Geoffrey. Rain looked at her father, who, although embarrassed by all the attention, returned their gratitude with a smile. "Rain," Mr. Reeves suddenly said, turning to her. She looked at him. "Do you know that your father taught me the true meaning of humility and courage? If not for him, I wouldn't have survived. Your family has a treasure greater than any mansion or business." "Thank you for valuing my father," Rain replied. "He's been a hero to me long before all this. And now I'm even prouder to be his daughter." After the dinner, Mr. Reeves gave Rain's family a tour of the mansion, showing them the large rooms, gardens, and even his private office. There, a photo of Ernest sat on a shelf, taken the day of the incident. Before they left, Mr. Reeves handed them another envelope, but Ernest declined. "Mr. Reeves, I didn't do any of this for a reward. All I ask is that you continue being the good man you are." On the way home in the same luxury car that picked them up, Rain couldn't stop smiling. "Dad, I had no idea how deeply they respect you," she said. Ernest held her hand. "Sweetheart, I just did what was right, but always remember, wealth and success aren't what define a person. What matters is the good we leave behind." And at that moment, Rain learned another important lesson, that a kind heart is far more valuable than anything material. She knew there was no greater treasure than her father, Ernest. Weeks after their first visit to Mr. Reeves's mansion, Ernest's family was invited again. This time not for a celebration, but for a more quiet and serious conversation. Inside Mr. Reeves's office, the atmosphere was calm, the only sound being the soft ticking of the wall clock. Mr. Reeves sat behind his large desk, holding a stack of documents. Beside him were 2 envelopes, one with Ernest's name, the other with Jeffrey's. But neither of them felt they deserved it. They knew nothing about running a business, and deep inside, they didn't feel worthy. Still, Mr. Reeves asked them to think it over. He sincerely wished to give them each half of his company shares. They stayed a while longer at the mansion, and their conversation eventually turned to Mr. Reeves's past. "Before all the success I have today," Mr. Reeves began, "I experienced the greatest tragedy of my life. More than 2 decades ago, I lost a daughter, an infant girl. My wife, now deceased, and I lost her after a car accident. In the chaos after the crash, our daughter vanished. We searched for her for many years, but we failed." At that point, Mr. Reeves brought out an old photograph from a photo album. It was of a smiling, joyful baby. He handed the picture to Ernest and his wife. "This is the last photo I have of her, before she disappeared. Even now, I still hope she's alive. I still hope to find her." As Ernest and his wife looked at the photo, their expressions changed. Rain's mother went pale, her voice suddenly gone, her hands trembling as she held the picture. "Ernest," she whispered, almost unable to believe it. "This baby, she's the one we found on the side of the road more than 20 years ago." Rain turned to look at her mother, confused. "Ma? Pa? What do you mean?" Ernest took a deep breath before answering. "Daughter, there's something you need to know. We're not your biological parents. Your mother had a condition with her ovaries. She couldn't have children." Rain felt like ice water had been poured over her. She froze, staring back and forth at the people she had always known as her parents. Her mother was already in tears, head bowed. Mr. Reeves, stunned, could hardly believe what he had just heard. 24 years ago, Ernest said, "we were walking home from town. It was raining hard, and the road was dark. We heard the cry of a baby, and there you were, wrapped in what looked like expensive cloth, left by the roadside, cold and shivering. There was no note, no name. No one ever came to claim you. We took you home, kept you warm, fed you, and from that day on, we raised you as our own." As they spoke, Mr. Reeves sat in silence, his tears falling. "That was the same night my daughter disappeared, the night that changed everything. I had no idea she'd end up in the care of such kind people. No words can express how grateful I am." Rain clutched the hands of the people who raised her. "Mum, Dad, I love you so much. I don't know what I would do if you weren't the ones who raised me." Mr. Reeves wiped his tears. I love you too, Rain, and if it's true you're my daughter, it means everything to me that I've found you again. But, Rain turned to her adoptive parents, you'll always be my family. You loved me and raised me. Nothing will change that. Ernest approached and held her hand. We love you, daughter. No matter what happens, you're still ours. Mr. Reeves looked at Ernest. I don't know how to thank you for the kindness you've shown to me, and to my daughter. I never imagined that the man who saved my life was the same one who raised my child. They were all still overwhelmed by the discovery, but there was joy too. Mr. Reeves had finally found the daughter he had been searching for all these years. Once they had calmed down, Mr. Reeves spoke again. May I ask, can you tell me everything about how you found her? I want to know every detail. It's a part of my life that's been missing for so long. Ernest nodded. That night, as I said, we were walking home. It was raining hard. We heard a baby crying. She was lying by the roadside, soaked and freezing. No one else was around. We had no idea where she came from. We didn't look for her parents. We were afraid someone might take her from us. We had always wanted a child. We brought her home, warmed her up, fed her. From that day forward, she became our daughter. As Mr. Reeves listened, tears streamed down his cheeks. That was the night I lost everything, but I had no idea that in losing her, she ended up in the hands of people so good and kind. There's no way I could ever repay you, Mom, Dad. I love you. I don't know what I would have done without you. You raised me to be the person I am. Nothing will ever change that. Mr. Reeves quietly wiped his tears. If it's true, if you're my daughter, it means everything to me. I've spent so many years hoping to see you again. But I understand, he continued, that your real family, your chosen family, is the one that raised you. Rain nodded tearfully. You'll always be a part of me. I want to get to know you too. I want to be part of your life, but I'll never leave the people who raised me. They are my family. Ernest stepped forward and gently took her hand. We love you, Anak. You'll always be our daughter. Nothing will change that. Mr. Reeves looked at Ernest again. I don't know how to thank you. You didn't just save me. You raised my child. You gave her love, protection, and values. You've done what I couldn't do. Though the truth overwhelmed them all, there was also peace. Finally, after so many years, the missing piece of Mr. Reeves's heart had returned. After a while, he said gently, To be absolutely certain, I've arranged for a DNA test. I just want to be sure. They all agreed, and when the results came back, the truth was confirmed. Rain was indeed Mr. Reeves's long-lost daughter. Rain felt immense joy that even though her real parents were not the ones who raised her, she had been loved as if she had been their own. She was happy to have met her biological father at last, a man who had been searching for her all his life. She allowed Mr. Reeves to make up for the time they lost. She wanted to learn more about her roots, her beginnings, and so Mr. Reeves invited her and her parents to explore more of the mansion. He wanted her to know where she came from. They entered a room filled with old photographs and memories, pictures of Mr. Reeves as a child, with his wife, and of the baby girl they lost. Look at this, Mr. Reeves said, holding up a worn picture. This was your favorite toy before you disappeared. I kept it all these years. Rain remained quiet, observing the room. In her heart, she felt a deep connection to everything around her. Dad, Mr. Reeves, she said gently, for now, I want to stay where I am, with the parents who raised me. But I also want to get to know you. I want to be part of your life, but I'm not leaving my family behind. Ernest and Mr. Reeves exchanged glances and nodded together. You decide what's best for you, Anak, Ernest said, Whatever you choose, we're here for you." "What matters most to me," said Mr. Reeves, "is that you know I'm here. I won't force anything, but the doors of this home will always be open to you, anytime." From that day forward, Rain maintained an open and loving relationship with Mr. Reeves, but her loyalty to the parents who raised her never wavered. She continued to dream of success, not just for them, but now also for the father she had only just met. And in the end, one thing became undeniably clear. It wasn't blood, nor wealth, that defined family. It was love, sacrifice, and the unseen bond that fate wove between souls. And maybe, just maybe, the person drawn to her true identity was also the one destined to be with her, because before she even realized it, she had begun to fall in love with the kind-hearted lawyer, Vasquez Velasquez. As for Jeffrey, his life was also beginning to flourish, thanks to his courage and his goodness. The end. Drop me a comment below if you really enjoyed the story. Mr. Name is Mr. Hope. I'll see you in the next story.